I was fishing in the southern Cascades once when I was about 13. I was by myself about a mile from camp and it was just about daybreak. I was angling for trout on a tiny stream that one could just about straddle. It was quiet and peaceful. Then I heard a twig snap and saw him, a beautiful big cougar sitting a few yards away on the opposite bank watching me catch trout. I didn't feel I was in any danger because the cat was not acting aggressively or in a stalking manner. Still, it occurred to me that if that big cat had wanted to take me down, he would have done it and I'd probably never have known what hit me. I was 10 and out moose hunting with my dad, uncle, and brother. The area had some bear signs, claw marks on trees, and such, but we always made camp there so it wasn't a big deal. So a couple days and my brother and I were dicking around in the forest and he found this really cool stick. Overcome by jealousy, I took it that night and hid it up one of the trails leading out of camp. The next day I went to get it alone, and as I was walking up the trail, only 30 feet from camp, some brown bear cubs popped onto the trail in front of me, followed closely by the mother. It was huge. It was looking at me. I was scared shitless, and it was 15 feet away. The cubs ran up a tree faster than you would believe. How the hell do they climb so fast? The mother started to walk down the trail towards me kind of slowly, sizing me up I think. I started backing up toward camp, walking backward. Felt like ages before the two of us got back to camp. Dad was in his camp chair, .306 propped on the arm facing the other way. Told him there was a bear, and when he raised his gun that brown bear scampered off quick. It must have been shot at before because it recognized a gun. Could have been fucked up pretty bad that day. I used to have a cougar, not the kind I fantasized about finding me, dragging me off to have my clothes ripped off in the bushes, would follow in my tracks. I never saw it, and the first time I saw its tracks in mine, I was pretty shaken up as I only had a small club to crack the beavers, muskrats behind the head. I carried a .22 pistol from then on. Cats die easily like canines, yet every time I came its tracks would be in mine. I never did see it and I often wonder if it simply jumped up into a tree as I turned around, but never thought to look up. I was proven wrong just this year by a biologist I told the story to. She told me that they rarely tree unless attacked, so I don't know. Anyhow, it never bothered me and as far as I know, left my traps alone. Honestly, in a lifetime of exploring Mount Backcountry, having been bluff charged by a black bear with cubs and a moose, that is the only time I have ever really been worried. My grandma owns property around Floresville, TX. It's a wooded area, so encounters with big cats, coyotes, bears, and boar are common. My grandpa used to spread deer corn out in a patch of sand in his backyard so he'd be able to see what was in the area to hunt. He'd either stay up late to watch or see what was still there in the morning. Usually, there were signs of boars rooting for corn in the sand. Sometimes as a kid I'd go out to throw corn around to attract more deer, and unintentionally ended up attracting more boar as well. When I was around 8 or 9, I went out around sunset to start throwing corn around with what I managed to fit in my tiny pockets. I wandered a little farther than usual, and when it got a little harder to see, I started to head back and I could hear something walking behind me. I assumed it was deer that I didn't see, so I just started dropping corn behind me. My grandma was outside with a flashlight yelling for me to come home. As soon as she saw me, she pointed her flashlight at me and screamed for me to get inside. I had no idea why, but the way she screamed scared the shit out of me. She picked me up and ran inside, and my grandpa, who had a bucket full of deer corn, dropped it as he was pouring out the corn and ran inside as well. They closed the door, and when I was put down, my grandma was checking if I was okay. I didn't hear her questions because I was staring outside. Probably the biggest boar I had ever seen in my life stood outside, sticking his nose into the bucket that was dropped on the floor. 2 or 3 more could be seen in what little light emitted from the windows. Apparently, my grandma shined the light on me, and this big boy was standing right behind me, just calmly following me. I had no clue until my grandma saw them. From what she told me, when I got older, if this thing suddenly decided to charge at me, she wouldn't have been able to help me. Boar are notoriously aggressive and extremely quick. They're destructive to the environment and invasive, hence why the state I live in has no regulations when it comes to hunting boar. Yet an absolutely massive one followed me home patiently and ate corn like it's a normal thing to follow kids around. My now husband and I were hiking once in the Appalachians. I wasn't paying attention and went to reach for a gate. My husband grabbed and pulled me back so hard I nearly fell. There was a copperhead coiled around the post that the gate was latched to. He saved me from being bit. The best thing was, my other half is a Brit and had no idea what a copperhead looks like and just saw a snake and reacted. Kinda had to marry him when he asked a few months later. Was in a place called Shark Bay in Western Australia. I was maybe stomach deep water when a decent sized shark shot by me. Hard to say the size, maybe 2 meters. I only saw it for a couple seconds and it was gone. Scared the fucking shit out of me. I've seen a few sharks where I live, but they're usually docile. This was the first time I saw one going full speed and in my direction. When I got out of the water, my friends told me I looked pale and like a deer in headlights. I got chased by an eel once while snorkeling. I was at the edge of a reef and maybe 25 meters away on the plain sandy bottom all by its lonesome was an eel. I wondered what its deal was, so I swam over and he was just lying on the bottom. I swam about 2-3 meters down to get a closer look. He turned, looked me right in the face, and then came straight for me. I spun around and panic swam away. I turned around after a little while and he was nowhere to be seen. Weirdly, years later I was slowly chased by a wounded snake on land. Why don't the danger noodles like me? Growing up, I lived outside of city limits near a river in western Montana on a 2-acre plot with horses. When I was 13, I decided to walk to the river, and I was headed there. I heard branches breaking, thought it was something like a deer. And then I heard the whining of a black bear cub. I looked up and saw the cubs, so I started backing up until I heard more branches breaking. I started fast pacing back to my house, keeping facing the cubs until I saw the mom. I turned around and started sprinting. Note the mom was about 50 yards away. The mom started charging at me. I finally got to our horse's pen, and despite the electric fence which hurt like a bitch, I hopped over the fence to escape the bear when the horses started freaking out to scare off the bear. My friend and I got lost in the clouds hiking down Mount Rainier. Off the path, wound up crossing glaciers and climbing up steep inclines looking for a trail marker. Arrived that night exhausted at a campground, too exhausted to pitch a tent or hang our food. Instead, we slept on the porch of a building and opened our packs in case an animal wanted to get at the food, and fell fast asleep. Woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of a grunting bear rifling through our open packs. We misjudged the size of a bear. Even though the packs were a good 6 feet or more away, I could have reached up and patted the bear's tummy. Did not get a very restful sleep the rest of the night.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to stay tuned for more true stories.